Welcome back to another quintessential episode of Talking Lamar. Today, I'm talking about my dream car, my 1976 Cutlass Supreme. Let's get to it.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Sorry, I forgot what I was talking about.
What are you talking about?
I am talking to you.
That's just what I was talking about.
It's Talking Lamar.
You know, when I was a kid, we had cows. That was our deal. We had a farm and we had cows. And that's how my brother Troy bought his cars, and that's how I bought my car. My dad would let us pick out a heifer calf, and it would be ours. And then when she grew up and she had a calf, that would be mine. And then when her calves had babies, they would be mine. And after a while, I would have enough cows to sell and buy a car. So my first car was a 1969 Ford Gran Torino with a black vinyl top. I got it when I was 15 years old, and I drove it till I got up into high school. I guess I was probably a senior when I traded it or sold it. And I had been working at a store called Otasco, and that stands for Oklahoma Tire and Supply Company. And it was a pre-runner to the big box stores. It was a one-stop shop. And every town had something like this. You could get tires, car parts, appliances, guns, fishing supplies, sporting goods, lawnmowers, toys. I mean, it was, it had everything you could think about. And I started working there when I was 12, putting together bicycles and Christmas toys. And I worked all day in the summer because I rode to work with my mama because she ran the soda fountain at the drugstore. And you remember when drugstores used to have soda fountain? They'd have like a little grill, and we had soup and grilled cheese sandwiches and ham sandwiches and hamburgers and that kind of stuff. Did y'all have that?
We barely had electricity in Wyoming. But I've seen these things in movies and have read about them in books.
Yeah, we had booths set up and everything. I mean, it was pretty cool. And one day, the guy that owned the Otasco store, Charles Strickland, he was picking up a sandwich, and the Otasco was right between Otasco and the drugstore was a Cato's. You know what Cato's is? It's a women's store.
A clothing store.
Yeah. Okay, there was a Cato store there. And so he was picking up a sandwich, and he asked me if I wanted a job putting together bicycles. I said, sure. And so I did that for a couple of years. And because when I didn't have bikes to put together, then I worked the floor and helped people find stuff. And after I got my license, I worked there every day after school. And they'd already sent me, when I was a kid, even before I got the car, they sent me, I told you this before, they sent me to the Speed Queen school in Atlanta to learn about Speed Queen washers and dryers because we sold them. And so I sold appliances too. So I saved up my money, and I convinced my mama to sign for me to buy a new car on credit. So I could, because I was making enough money to make payments on it. And so I settled on a Cutlass Supreme, a 1976 Cutlass Supreme, brand new. And I found one at a dealership in Elberton, Georgia. And it was white, and it had T-tops. Do y'all know what T-tops are?
Oh, yeah.
Do.
Oh, yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know what this is, they're two removable glass tops that are over the driver's side and the passenger side seats. It's like a sunroof, but it's more open. And it had tan leather seats. I mean, it was badass. I'm not kidding you. It was badass. And I loved that car. And so I had had the car, but probably a month, maybe less than a month. And I was driving around the town square, and a guy was backing out of a parking place. So I stopped to let him back out. But as he was backing out, he just kept coming. I mean, he didn't stop. He didn't go far. He just kept coming. And so he's backed it right into my car and sideswiped it down the driver's side. Oh, man. I was sick to my stomach. I was sick. And so the police came and they made a report. And I was on my lunch break. And so I went straight down to the body shop in town, and I got an estimate on it. And I turned it in to my insurance. And that'll come up a little bit later in the story. A week later, we were scheduled in high school. My high school, I was part of the Key Club. And Key Club's a part of the Kiwanis Club. You know what that is? Kiwanis Club. They
Yeah.
service club and do stuff. Yeah. Well, the Key Club was a high school version of that, and we were scheduled to go to the convention down in Augusta, and I was secretary of our local club. And two guys rode with me down there. So there was three of us, and there were probably 4 or 5 cars total that were going down. And so we had all diligently packed all of our ice chests full of beer in the back of our cars underage, and we are ready to have a big time. So we left out like at 5 a.m., popping that first beer, which had been the tradition for many years. Now, this is where I have to say in this part, a legal disclaimer. This was illegal to be drinking underage. You should not do that. It is illegal to drink and drive. Not only illegal, but it's irresponsible and dangerous, so don't do it. Now, I got that out of the way. As people still do it anyway, so that's what we were doing. So we're going down the road, and we're talking, we're singing with the music. We're having a great time. And so we were the last one in line of the cars, and we weren't following too closely because we had a map. We knew where we're going. Of course, this is before GPS. Most people, at this time, nobody, unless you're old as we are, does not remember a paper that folded out a map, We had a fold out map.
Anywhere? How did humans get anywhere without GPS? I don't know how I found my way home without GPS.
I know. Once you get used to it, you are ruined. You really are. But, we're just having a great time. And eventually we all quieted down, and the sun was up and it was shining. It was sort of warm coming through. T-tops is open. The breeze is blowing. And we'd all drank a few beers, and, everybody got relaxed. And the other two guys, they were asleep. And evidently I took a quick 7-second nap. And when I did, I found myself off the road. And so I woke up and I immediately cut the wheel right back to get on the road, which was stupid. When you cut that wheel, it's not like you're gradually coming back on the road. You come up on the road and shoot across to the other side, and I flipped the car. And we rolled completely over and landed right side up, back on our wheels. Dust is everywhere. Oh yeah. Wow. Oh yeah. And so, and of course, nobody had a seatbelt on, which was stupid. But in this instance, and probably a million other times wouldn't be this way, but in this one instant, it probably saved my buddy's life in the passenger seat, because the corner of the windshield. So think about this: the T-top's out, so the windshield's up in its frame. When it hit, it drove that down into the passenger seat, right where he would have been sitting in it with his chest.
Oh my gosh.
That's another bullet dodged, but he had fell over onto the console when we rolled. And so, everything was, we're trying to figure out what's going on. And so the guy in the back, he got thrown around, but he was okay. I got a big gash on the top of my head because when the car went over on the roof, my head went down and hit the ground. Then I bounced back into the car, I guess, when it rolled on over. So I had this big gash on my head. And so we're sitting there for a few seconds. We're pretty dazed, not really sure what had happened. And I said, "Everybody okay?" And they said, yeah, we're good. So we're sitting there trying to figure out what we're going to do. And boy, I'm knowing my mom was going to be so mad. Oh my God, this is not good for me. So a Department of Transportation, one of those DOT trucks, yellow trucks, was going by, and they stopped. So two guys got out and asked if we're hurt, and we said no. And the next thing they immediately asked was, "Do you have beer in the car?" And I said, "Yeah, there's an ice chest full of it in the trunk." And the guy said, "Open the trunk and we'll get rid of it." So I opened up the trunk. So they grabbed it out and took it down into the woods and left it there. And I guess their plan was to come back and get it after, all the wreckers and ambulances and stuff was gone. So I was pretty dazed, had a concussion. And the ambulance came and they, put me in the ambulance and went to the hospital, and they stitched me up. And they kept me overnight. And Mr. Baker, our chaperone, he called my mama and told her what had happened, that I was fine and no need to come right now.
That's your mama calling from heaven. Listen to me. That's your mama. Your mama said, back it up, sweet cheeks. And to the part where I found out about it. Let's go.
But he said she can, come pick me up the next day. So the next day before I checked out, a highway patrolman came in to interview me. And he asked me, he said, what happened? So I told him what happened. And he said, had y'all been drinking? And I said, no, absolutely not. And he said, well, that's good. He said, that's real good. He wrote me a ticket. He said, I'm going to have to write you a ticket for loss of control of a motor vehicle. And I'm like, what? He said, were you driving a motor vehicle? I said, yeah. He said, did you lose control of the motor vehicle? I said, yeah. He goes, that's why I'm writing you a ticket. He said, so when you leave here, go by the courthouse. He gave me the address and pay the fine, and everything would be great. I said, okay, I will. So as he started to walk out the room, he put his hand on the doorknob and he cracked the door about halfway open, and he turned around, sort of a Columbo moment. He goes, oh, wait a minute, I almost forgot. We found an ice chest down in the woods, deep down in the woods, not too far from your car, and it was full of Budweiser. Would you know anything about that? And I thought for a few seconds, and I said, no, can't say that I do. And he smiled and he said, I didn't think you would. Glad y'all are okay. And he walked out the door. He didn't say another word. And I was so glad he came in before my mama came in, because I'm trying to keep, So Mr. Baker, the chaperone, he was a science teacher, biology teacher. He came back there. He was there when my mom and daddy got there. And he assured her that, accidents happen, and he had checked thoroughly and made sure we weren't speeding according to the patrol, and we weren't drinking, of course. And Mr. Baker was covering his ass. Okay, he was covering his ass, because this ain't good if you're the chaperone and somebody total losses a car. But everything sounded okay to my mama, and so we got in the car and we went home and we paid the fine. And so we get home, and I'm working at the store, and I get a phone call from the man that backed into me from the insurance company. And the guy says, is this Lamar Richardson? I said, yeah, it is. And he said, I'm the insurance guy for blah, 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 the guy's name. He said, hit your car. He said, his brakes failed. So when your brakes fail, you're not liable for any damage that your vehicle does.
What?
And I'm like, what? I said, man, come on. That's not right. And he said, well, I don't know why you're worried about it. Is that car not total lost? And it's tore up, right? And I said, yeah, it is. And he said, so really, whatever damage he did to the car, it doesn't matter, because the car is totaled now. And I said, well,
but it's totaled because of him.
Yeah. I said, okay. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, if I come to your house tonight, not that I'm going to, but if I come to your house tonight and I throw rocks and stuff through your windows and I break your windows out and they arrest me and they take me to jail, if your house catches on fire and burns down, then do they let me out of jail? Does it negate the fact that I busted out your windows? The fact that your house burnt down? He goes, well, that's a whole nother different. I said, no, let's don't. Listen, I'm just a kid. I'm going to give you my mama's phone number. And I said, you give her a call and give her this spiel. So in about 10 minutes, he called me back and he said, we'll have a check processed. And
I'll bet they will.
And he said, we'll have it in the mail. I said, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So that the money I got from where he hit the side of the car, it paid the difference between, because my car, it total lost the car, and they knocked off, I forget how much money for tire wear and something else. But other than that, the check that the insurance company paid me paid the difference, and I replaced my car. We went and ordered another one, and but my mama said no T-tops. She said, you were lucky this time. You might not be so lucky the next time. And I couldn't complain. I couldn't argue about that. But that was, I love that car. I love that car.
Lamar, when the more I learn about some of your early choices and exploits, nearly got you killed in Elberton by some girl's boyfriend. There's many. Oh, there's so many. It makes me wonder if God didn't have a plan for you. But here's the scary part. What if God's plan was this? Like, what if
this right here?
This right here. What if this was it? Like, we always think when we go, God has a plan for me. We imagine ourselves curing cancer or rescuing a baby.
Not a cautionary tale.
Yeah, like, oh, what if
there has to be some
plan?
There has to be some bad examples to refer to so that you can help people not make those same mistakes, I guess. But
I guess
I'd rather it not be me, though. It has been, and I'd rather it not be.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but boy, I missed that car. God, it was a great car. I love that car.
I will say there's so many, this is like one of those classic, it's a great big pile of manure, but let's dig and we'll find a pony in there. There is a pony in here, and here it is. Even as a kid, you were such a hard worker that you could have a new car that you paid for.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then totaled, and then another new car. But that speaks volumes about, your work ethic and your willingness to, put in the labor and the effort. Big workout. Big work ethic. Huge work ethic. Not a lot of common sense, but big ethic.
Yeah. If you're poor and you want to have something, you got to work.
You got to work.
Because there's no inheritance. There's no inheritance coming my way.
I will say that the cow says I'm putting some work in on this project too.
Oh yeah.
So the DOT guys who moved your beer did not get a chance to come back for it before
I don't
the law
think they did
dogs showed up.
because I'm pretty sure what happened was that highway patrolman put that in the back of his car, and they had a barbecues.
I am telling you, I had a friend that was a policeman, and he would call me up, and he said, "Confiscated some beer. Come on over to my place tonight. We don't need to buy any."
Listen, when I was on the truck, I wouldn't even be speeding, and a car with a sheriff's deputy or something would pull up behind me on a country road and hit the blue lights, and I'd get out of the truck and he'd say, I felt like you was going a little bit fast. I just did. I said, man, I don't want to get a ticket. He said, well, I understand that. He said, it's hot out here. He said, I don't know if maybe a case of that beer might fall off that truck. And I said, yeah, it can. It can. And it won't break either. It'll fall slightly. And I'd set it down on the other side of the truck. I'd open it on the side against the wall or away from the road. I'd set it in the ditch and pull off. I've done that many times.
You had to give how much did you have to give them?
Just a case. They weren't big time. Now the few times that I got caught speeding, I had to hit a good many cases because they would have a cookout and they would need me to sponsor.
My God, I cannot even believe, and I come from criminals. I cannot even believe my ears. Oh my God!
But that came out of your pocket, right? Because you
I had to pay for. Yeah, you had to pay for the beer.
But it was worth it. I understand.
Better to pay for 5 or 6 cases of beer than pay for a ticket and for insurance going up and getting it on your record.
Yeah.
Because back then it would just disappear. It would just disappear off your record.
There is such a great Hollywood moment in this story, and it makes you it gives you such a to your small town Southern law enforcement. The cop that came to visit you in the hospital, the way he played that, drama, the climax of, I didn't think it was yours. I mean, that was, the delayed gratification for that cop to save that question for last.
And he's telling that story while him and his buddies are drinking that beer. He's telling that story. He goes, yes, and I asked him about it, and he looked at me and said, I don't believe I don't believe I know anything about that.
And a guardian angel, for sure.
Oh. Listen, I have had one. I still got it. I still got one. I mean, no. There's many times I probably shouldn't have made it.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think that this was part of the plan for you. I think God was like to your guardian angel, "No, you're going to be busy. You're going to be really, really busy. But we got to protect this boy. We got to protect this boy so that we can turn him into a 3-dimensional cautionary tale on multiple platforms." Oh my gosh.
Well,
Do you not like when you had kids, Lamar, and your kids hit their teenage years? Did you not lay awake at night in a cold sweat? Because like I didn't do some of these wild ass things that y'all did. And I was so naive about what my kids were getting up to, but you knew.
well, I was hoping. See, I hoped that they wouldn't. I hoped they were too scared, and I felt like I had won that battle. But once they got up a little older, then you start hearing a little, no, yeah, they've had their own stuff. They've definitely had their own stuff. I mean,
Wow.
and which my mama, she laid the law down on me, and I was terrified of her. Oh my gosh, I was terrified of her. But you're still going to do what you're going to do because you're going to hang out with your friends, and
No,
you're just going to do it. You're just
it's
gonna
so
do it.
true. It's so true that you're going to do what you're going to do, even as you're doing it, and this is a really stupid idea. I probably shouldn't do this.
I tell you what I used to do. I would be with somebody in their car, and we would stop and get beer, and we'd be going down the road, and I would have my window down, and I would be holding the 6-pack of beer, maybe 5 beers out on the thing, because if we wrecked, that would fall outside the car and it wouldn't be inside the car. Because I'm like, I cannot have my mama. No, that's not going to work for me. No, I was terrified. Absolutely terrified.
I have another question. It's a follow-up question on your earlier testimony. So when the Cutlass flipped, did I understand you to say your head bounced off the road and back into the car?
Well, when I went across the road, it caught, and that's when it flipped. Now, we didn't flip on the asphalt. We flipped over into the dirt on the side of the road. And so you got to figure the car goes up, it hits on the side, and then it rolls over on the top. I don't have a seatbelt on, so gravity would have pulled me out of the seat and thrown me to the ground. So my head popped on the ground, and then the car kept rolling over. And, it could have been a whole. It could have been a terrible, terrible thing. I must have held onto the steering wheel pretty good because, but like I say, I hit my head, but I stayed inside the car.
Max, so, did you hear that too? That his head kind of bounced off the road? And
yeah, I did hear that. And
and you had questions?
I really didn't know. It really kind of explained a lot, Sheri.
Yeah, I've had a couple of hits on the noggin that might have explained a lot of what's going on now. I don't know. But
I had a friend tell me one time that the difference between growing up in the country versus the suburbs or the city is that you have a lot more rope to get yourself into trouble in the country. You just have more room. You have more of everything, more room, more privacy to get up to mischief. And he said to me, that's why country boys get in so much trouble, because there aren't enough eyes on them. You've just got all that room. You agree with that?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But now, as far as the eyes go, my mom, because she worked at the drugstore at the soda fountain, she knew everybody. So I had to be really careful when I was uptown and, whatever. I couldn't be seen. Last thing I couldn't be seen behind the Dairy Queen with a beer in my hand, because that would not have went well, because so many people knew my mom and they knew me, so that was, I had to be a little bit careful on that.
Was the drinking age 18 there when you were a teenager?
When it was 18 for beer and 21 for liquor. Yeah.
Because I think my older brother, I think the drinking age went up right after him. And I can remember seeing him and his friends. Like one night, they got all dressed up in suits and put dark sunglasses on and ran like speaker wire from their ears down under their collars. And
like they were the
Secret
Blues
Service.
Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Oh, Secret
Yeah.
Service. Okay.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, this is in a big city. They dressed up like Secret Service, went into like not a dive bar, but not like, a cocktail lounge, like something in between.
Yeah.
And got free drinks because they were Secret Service.
Oh,
Now
my
they
God.
were like 19. And I know that people used to look older, but when I tell you they looked like they were 19, I just don't even know how they pulled it off. I mean, the balls to pull it off, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that they were successful, wow. My grandmom was right. Boys are trouble and need to be avoided at all costs.
Your grandmother was right.
She
Yeah,
was.
but you didn't
Nothing
pay
good
attention.
happens after midnight. Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know
Lamar,
if it
what
did or not
did
because
you-
I had to be home by 11:30, so it didn't matter. So
What did you learn from all of this craziness?
probably not.
And
what
the
it
answer
should
can
have.
be a damn thing. Yeah.
No,
the
well, that's
answer
what I'm
can
saying.
be a damn thing.
I don't really feel like I learned too much. Maybe to be careful, but I don't know if that's about all I took from it because I got, I skated through. So, and that's
you
the
got away with
problem.
it.
That's the problem. When you skate through,
Yeah, that is the problem.
it is the problem. When you skate through, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
In the moment, you're real fixated on not getting caught, but it's only when you look back that you go, man, if I'd have just gotten caught.
Oh yeah. But I mean,
Well,
I didn't realize it at the time, but when I look back on it, that was a bad wreck. That was for you to have the windows down, the T-tops out, and to roll a car over, and everybody stays inside the car. Because most of the time, somebody gets ejected, then the car rolls over somebody, and my life would have been, oh my gosh! Because if I'm driving and somebody dies, now I've got to live with that.
I had a childhood friend that did happen.
Oh God,
it did happen, and it was his brother.
It's a terrible thing.
Childhood friend. Yeah, they were and they were like 16 and 15.
Oh my gosh!
And you know what? Your frontal lobes aren't finished developing.
No,
you don't
no.
have
Good Lord.
No.
You don't have good reason or good judgment. This is why, like, you have to hope for luck and a guardian angel at that point. But Lamar, I just want to say that I wasn't in that car or on that scene, and I just learned about this, and I knew it was a bad wreck. I didn't need to reflect upon it. I wasn't even taking notes, but when you said my head came out and hit the road and then came back in, I guess I had a concussion. What?
Did anybody smell beer on your breath? Did anybody say anything?
No, nobody said anything because the highway patrol said he didn't come until the next day. Because I guess I had my head sewed up. I guess they gave me something and knocked me out, but he didn't come right afterwards. I was gone when he got there. The ambulance took us and we were gone. So,
Oh, so you didn't see the police. I was going to say, when the devil went down to Georgia, did he take everybody's common sense? Like, what do you mean the police didn't come?
No, because the ambulance got there first and immediately, I mean, I'm bleeding and they got, as kids, so they're taking us to the hospital. And so he didn't come by till the next day. And by the next day, I'm good to go.
Yeah. You are as close as I'm ever going to come to a real life Smokey and the Bandit movie.
Woo.
Wow. You know what I'm so surprised by? You were such a smooth talking, charming bad boy. I don't understand why you weren't more successful with the girls back then. Or maybe you were, and that's for another episode.
No, we won't have one of those episodes. No. I was backward with the ladies. I
mean, you were such a cutie pie. You could ride a unicycle and juggle and be a ventriloquist, and you had a car with T-tops.
And a wannabe magician. All of those things are exactly what women are looking for.
I mean, that's a fair point.
Clowns, ventriloquists, and magicians. Absolutely.
A woman likes a guy with a sense of humor, but not when it's coming on the dummy on his lap.
Yeah. That's a really fair point. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, you're right, Max. The unique cluster of skills he had to work with were like girl repellent. I apologize.
Listen. My road to the show business was a long and curvy one. It really was.
Wow.
See, in high school, if you played the drums or a guitar, that might be something. But the unicycle, the ventriloquist dummy, and some magic tricks, and that ain't getting it done. That's just not getting it done.
And I bet when you were a teenager, you were mystified as to why it wasn't getting it done. Who doesn't enjoy the accordion and a good magic trick? Yeah. Hey, you know what? You got plenty lucky later, right?
Yep. I got no complaints. I got no complaints. All of that road there led me to where I'm at. So I'm pretty happy with it. So I got no complaints. So.
And it doesn't seem like bouncing your head along the highway like a basketball took all that much off your fastball.
No, here or there maybe, but so far so good. I can still add and subtract. So I'm in pretty good shape.
And I've seen him, I have seen him sign his name. He can do it.
In that cursive that nobody else knows anything
about.
Oh, yeah,
that fancy curly writing.
That fancy writing. All right. I believe that's going to wrap up another peek into the life of me. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. We've had so much fun. We really hope you did. And if you did, how about tell somebody? Share it with somebody. Tell 5 or 6 people all at one time. We'd love to hear your questions and comments or suggestions. And you can email it or go to Bob and Sheri app and look down at the bottom and click on the microphone and start talking. Or you can call 844-52-SHERI and leave a message. Now listen, don't stop listening because I hate a quitter. Until then.